that you see behind the video camera there were produced in honor of his 100th birthday celebration. That's where that comes from. Well, John F. Kennedy was often ill as a child. I'll give you some examples. He actually was born with one leg shorter than the other. What does that lead to if you got one leg shorter than the other? It happens to me all the time. My pelvis gets knocked out of place because I'm getting old and I'm falling apart. So what happens when my leg's one leg shorter than the other? You get back pain. Your back really bothers you. So he was often ill as a child. He was born with one leg shorter than the other, led to pain in his back throughout his life. He also was stricken with scarlet fever at the age of 3. He was also stricken with scarlet fever at the age of 3. So he's very sickly as a young child. Very sickly. Actually, he's pretty sickly his whole life, and we'll give you more examples of that. Well, John Kennedy attended elementary schools in both Massachusetts and New York. And at the age of 14, he was sent to a private high school in Connecticut known as Choate Academy, which is on your ID sheet. So John Kennedy attended elementary schools in both Massachusetts and New York. And at the age of 14, he was sent to Choate Academy, which was a private high school in Connecticut. Now, he wasn't perfect. Actually, he was once expelled from Choate Academy for what they deemed mischievous behavior, but was reinstated shortly afterwards. Talked his way back in, or his father talked his way back in. But he was not a perfect child. He was expelled for mischievous behavior, but was reinstated shortly afterwards. Now, he graduated from Choate Academy when he was 18, and I told you about how in the old days they would vote you most likely to do this or most likely to do that. He was voted most likely to succeed by his classmates. Pretty good prophecy. Okay, he was voted most likely to succeed by his classmates during his senior year at Choate Academy, in which he graduates at the age of 18. Well, after he graduated from prep school, that's what they call a private high school, prep school, Kennedy spent the summer of 1935 in England. He spent the summer of 1935 in England. And the reason that Kennedy was in England in 1935 after he graduated from prep school is his father was serving as U.S. ambassador to England under President Franklin Roosevelt. So President Franklin Roosevelt named Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. as U.S. ambassador to England, and since his father was over there serving under that direction, the entire family went over in the summer of 1935. That's where he spent his summer. Well, he returned from England, and what did he do? Entered college, right? He actually entered Princeton University that fall. After spending his summer in England, he entered Princeton University that fall, but he had to leave at Christmas. He was forced to leave at Christmas. Anybody know why he left Princeton University at Christmas? He had jaundice. God, MVP of the class today. He developed jaundice. Anybody know what jaundice is?
You get like weird you're like
Okay, your liver malfunctions. You know what usually happens is when you're a baby, when you're first born, you know, kids, their livers don't quite start working right. They turn kind of a yellowish color. It's a discoloration of tissues and body fluids caused by malfunction of the liver. But very unusual to get that as a young adult. But he developed jaundice, which is a yellowish discoloration of tissues and body fluids caused by malfunction of the liver, and he had to take that semester off of school to recover. He was so sick. Another example of his health, not very good. So he takes that semester off school to recover. So he's out the first year, right? He goes, has to quit by Christmas, takes the second semester off to recover. That fall, the fall of 1936, he enters Harvard University. And he graduates from Harvard in June of 1940. So after his problems with his health and jaundice, he enters Harvard University in the fall of 1936, graduating in 1940. He graduated with a major in government and international relations. Graduated from Harvard with a major in government and international relations. Now, I don't know how it was then, but when I went to graduate school, you had two choices. You could either take a comprehensive exam over everything you learned, or you could do a thesis. In other words, write a big paper, major league paper. I chose the exam route, which I don't know how bright that was, because it wasn't very easy to do. Well, Kennedy basically wrote a thesis to graduate from Harvard. And after he graduated from Harvard, what did he do with his thesis? He published it into a book. And the title of the book was Why England Slept. So after graduating from Harvard, Kennedy revised the thesis he wrote there and published it into a book entitled Why England Slept. This is a first edition, first printing. Get on eBay and see what one of these is worth. Okay? Now, if anybody can tell me what this book was about within a reasonable amount of time, I'll give you 5 points extra credit. What was the book about? Why England Slept. Anybody want to guess? I've only had one kid in 38 years get this right. Why England Slept. Think of the title. What might it be about? Paris?
Did they not echo World War I, by the way?
Close. I'm going to stay with you because you at least you have a clue here. You're close. Why England Slept. Go ahead, somebody else can say it. But okay, this book is about England's failure to prepare for World War II. Now, what do most people, every kid that has ever answered that, maybe prior to Paris, has said why England slept is how in the world could England have lost the Revolutionary War being so powerful against the colonies? That's what most kids guess, but that's not true. Why England Slept was a book about England's failure to prepare for World War II. Okay, we had to kind of bail them out, didn't we, over there? Help England out? Hitler was going to take those folks over. Okay? After he graduated from Harvard, he enrolled at Stanford University in the graduate program, but he dropped out 6 months later. And then I'll tell you tomorrow what he did after he dropped out of graduate school at Stanford University. Okay? It seems odd that he would drop out of Stanford University. I'll let you think on that, why he might have. Okay, I want to talk about